Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the third of our spring webinar series. I hope you all had a good weekend. I'm Edith Juguna, and I'm the Director of the Success Network. Today's session is on OneGoal's postsecondary network, closing the gap for equitable outcomes. I'm looking forward to learning more about the network and hearing directly from some school districts that are part of the network. We'll have time for questions at the end of the presentation. So please add those to the chat or unmute yourself if you have questions. I'll now kick it over to Beth Baser to introduce herself and the team.
Hey, thank you so much, Edith. And thank you to all of you for being here today. As Edith said, we're going to be presenting on the OneGoal Post-Secondary Leadership Network, the work that we're doing to support school districts as they equitably improve their post-secondary outcomes. And you're going to hear from two of our rock star districts about the work that they've been doing and the results that they've been seeing. I'm going to give everybody a moment to introduce themselves. As I said, I'm Beth Baser. I am the Senior Director of Program Design and Strategy. So I'm the one who designs the materials and the resources that we use throughout the Post-Secondary Leadership Network. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Andrea White.
Good morning. It's great to see everyone. I'm Andrea White. I am Director of Program Implementation here at OneGoal. And I'm going to pass it over to Julie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Ferdine. I'm one of the post-secondary leadership coaches at OneGoal, and I work directly with the districts to support their post-secondary programs and outcomes. And I will pass it on to Dr. Williams.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sharon Williams, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools at the Proviso Township High Schools District 209, and look forward to sharing a little bit about our journey this morning. Thank you. I need to pass it on. I'll pass it over to Ms. Fulton.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Yvonne Fulton. I'm the Waukegan College and Career Readiness Coordinator for the district, and I will pass it on to Dr. Nault.
Thanks, Yvonne. Hi, good morning, everyone. Jason Nault, Associate Superintendent in Waukegan. Happy to be here this morning with all of you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. We are excited to move forward and talk about the work that we've done together. As a reminder, please use the chat to ask questions as we go. We will also have a dedicated Q&A section at the end. This session is being recorded, so we can share it with you later. And if there are any links to drop, we will drop those in the chat as well.
All right, so I'm going to kick us off. I know that there might be some varying levels of familiarity around OneGoal and who we are and the work that we do. So I want to get us started by just a brief introduction to OneGoal and really the why behind our work. And our work, which you'll learn a little bit more about later through our classroom model, which is focused on post-secondary planning for students, and then our post-secondary leadership network, which is focused on building the capacity of school and district leaders, is really centered on what you see here on this slide, in closing the degree divide in America. And as we know, Beth, as you go to the next slide, the degree divide still looms very large. And I'm sure as you're looking on the slide that these numbers are not new or shocking to you. And as you know, the disparities between high-income students and low-income students across the country is pretty stark. And so opportunity with that is not equally distributed. And we know that our low-income students are really left to face academic, economic, and social barriers that make it really hard for them, really almost impossible to achieve what we call in our vision, their greatest post-secondary aspiration, whether that be college or career. And so we know, like a lot of other post-secondary educational outcomes, COVID came in and really deepened that degree divide and also really affected the enrollment and persistence rates of students across the country. And so this national attention now that we're seeing to this degree divide has really presented us here at OneGoal a unique opportunity for like what we like to call bold systemic change. And through that is where our classroom model and our post-secondary leadership network comes into play as we try to address institutional and system level barriers that impact student success through both of those components. This year, we're celebrating 15 years, which is really exciting. And so after 15 years of being able to provide services such as the classroom model, and now going into our second year with our post-secondary leadership network, we are seeing that these solutions and the services that we are providing are helping to work to improve outcomes for our students. And then on the next slide with our vision, this is our why behind our work, and what centers it is that we want every young person to have an equitable opportunity to achieve whatever their greatest post-secondary aspiration may be. And again, whether that's college and career. And so that really centers our why behind the work that you see us doing directly with students and teachers in the classroom. And then through the post-secondary leadership network with school and district leaders. So I'm going to pass it off to Julie now to talk a little bit more about the work that we do and dive into our post-secondary leadership network.
Thanks, Andrea. So just building on some of the history that Andrea gave you about our organization, you can see that OneGoal serves communities and students across the country. And through our 15 years in existence, we've slowly grown to help impact communities and help students achieve their greatest post-secondary aspirations. And so this year we are in 6 regions, and we are helping districts across 2 post-secondary leadership states. And so if we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see a little bit clearer how our 2 solutions really complement each other. They do exist by themselves as well, but when you overlap them, the impact on students and communities is far greater. So our classroom model is student-facing curriculum that starts in junior year, and the teacher works with the students starting junior year, doing some individual growth and exploration to help them establish their post-secondary plans and really find the best fit and match for them, be it a 2 or 4 year institution or a career training program. And then they continue with those students through senior year, and the bridge year, which is the summer between high school and college enrollment or career training enrollment. We continue to work with our students to help support them through that transition from high school to adult life. On the other side is our post-secondary leadership network, which is for adults. And that's really focused on district and systems level changes. So working with school and district leaders to build the capacity of all adults across the district to help improve post-secondary readiness and build capacity. We do believe that all of the school staff play an integral part in post-secondary readiness, access, and success for our future leaders. And we do all of this through a very structured coaching system. So if we go to the next slide, it'll make a little bit, you can see that there's multiple components that go into our post-secondary leadership network. So we start with the post-secondary readiness assessment, and that really helps all of the stakeholders across the district have some voice and really reflect on the current solutions and the current practices that are in your district to help see where the gaps and the highlights are. And then based on that post-secondary readiness assessment, the coach, which is someone like me, would work with your post-secondary leadership team to really tailor your plan to help support the growth of things that you are already doing well, and then help bring in expertise and build up leadership knowledge and post-secondary access knowledge to build programs that are sustainable within the capacity of your district. And we do that through expert one-on-one coaching and guidance. So you'll hear in a few minutes from 2 districts that are on similar but different journeys. And that's because we have come into the districts and really learned what their context is and what their local needs are, and have been able to develop a coaching plan and programs alongside them that they'll be able to continue to grow and sustain well beyond their partnership with OneGoal. And then the other great component of our post-secondary leadership network is our communities of learning. And so we bring together all of our partner districts multiple times across the year for us to learn from each other. So we highlight really powerful and impactful programs that are already existing in school districts across the state. And we connect those leaders to help build out those programs in multiple districts. And so we really focus on systems level benefits that really increase the student outcomes. And really the post-secondary leadership network is meant for their coach to come and work in the district, that we don't come and tell you what to do. We really learn what your local context is and help you achieve the goals that you've already started working to help impact the adult capacity and the belief system that all students can find a post-secondary pathway that will lead to their greatest aspirations for adult life. So now that you understand a little bit about, or a little better about how our program works, I do want to turn it over to Dr. Williams from Proviso so she can share their journey with their partnership with OneGoal.
Good morning again, everyone. So I'm again Sharon Williams, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools at the Proviso Township High School District. We're located in, if you can go ahead and go to the next slide, I think this is the overview. We're located in one of the suburbs of Chicagoland area. We have 3 high schools, one of which is a selective enrollment school, 2 comprehensive high schools. And as you see, there are about 4,400 students. We do have a diverse student population, very proud of that. And about 17% of our students are English learners. Right now, our rate for matriculation to 2 or 4 year institution is about 47% of our graduates. So upon entering Proviso about a year ago now, I was made aware as one of the first action steps for me as a new leader in the school district was that we were awarded the OneGoal grant and that we were going to be a part of the cohort. And we welcomed the opportunity. It was born out of our athletic directors and coaches, athletic coaches, need to fill a gap for our scholars who were graduating and weren't very sure about their next steps or plans. So this was a very welcome support system for the Proviso Township School District. We are only a high school district, so our focus is on how we're going to prepare our students for their next steps in life. So if you'll go to the next slide. So we just jumped in with all of our feet at one time. So we went for the classroom model in our first year of implementation. This was a very strong aspect to norming all of our 3 schools to know that everyone's job is to ensure that our students have a strong plan for their post-secondary goals. What I will say upon entering the Proviso School District is that we were operating very separately as 3 distinct schools, and we weren't operating as a school system. The classroom model and the coaching that we've received from OneGoal has helped us become more toward a high quality operating school system. where those beliefs and practices are now a part of all 3 of our schools. So we do have the classroom model in all 3 of our schools. We are expanding sections next year and adding the senior sections, looking very much forward to seeing what the second year of OneGoal implementation looks like in our schools. It is a highly coveted class now. We can say in at least one of our schools, and we're building capacity in the others to make sure that our students know that this opportunity exists. And we're looking forward with some coaching and continued capacity building to, as Julie says, go wall to wall. So inventory of current post-secondary readiness initiatives. What we noticed at the very beginning is that we had gaps in our adult capacity to support post-secondary planning for our students. One of the first goals or action steps that we took to close some of that those gaps was to engage our school counselors in collaborative meetings. Whereas, as I mentioned, we were 3 schools operating very differently from each other. So one of the strategies was to bring all of our counselors together so that they could begin learning from each other, learning from our partnership with OneGoal, and to build some capacity for our counselors, which are really the pivot point, the leverage that we have with students to ensure that they have a plan for when they leave Proviso. Second, one of the other goals that we set for ourselves is to build data systems. So upon entry into the school district, we lacked a cohesive and coherent data system that helped us look at data on a regular basis. So one of the first things we did was to, with the help of some very savvy spreadsheet gurus, is to begin to call our data from our student information system and to make it come alive each week with live data for our students. So as a part of some of the goals that we set with our OneGoal coach, we looked at 9th grade on track and FAFSA. 9th grade on track for sure. Our data tool that was created based on our need to create that data system across the school system has allowed us to look in real time as to how our students are doing in the 9th grade. And this has really brought to life some gaps we have in supporting students as they're beginning their high school journey. And we're able to then act on the data more readily and quickly because we do have it every week. In addition to that, our FAFSA goal is a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal this year. Our FAFSA completion rates are quite low. We are working just about weekly on strategies to increase our FAFSA completion. We know that this, of course, money is a barrier for some students to go on to pursue their post-secondary goals. So we want to close that gap for our students. We've hosted several district-wide FAFSA nights. We've partnered with Triton College. We've partnered with ISAC and also Introspect Youth Services through TRIO to partner with our schools very closely to conduct those district-wide FAFSA nights, but also to push into our schools to help our counselors and our school leaders make sure that all of our students are completing the FAFSA. And again, that last bullet just harkens back to the what I mentioned about our school counselors and making sure that they have professional learning that's ongoing and that they're collaborative. Let's think what else I can say about Proviso right now. Again, just building really some exciting and capacity building for all of our schools and also all of our employees. So we know we previously had a structure where there were only a few counselors who were assigned to, or it was their primary job for college and career readiness. So we're spreading that responsibility out to all counselors first, to all grade level principals, which are assistant principals and school leaders, but also to all of our teachers, first through the OneGoal classrooms, and then eventually so that we can spread that throughout the schools by using some of the same strategies that we're using or learning about in the classroom model to make sure that our teachers are on the front line of supporting our students to make decisions about their post-secondary goals. And I think that's what I can share right now. I'm looking forward to any questions that folks have after our next presentation. Oh, we do have some data. So this is where we stand now. We're solidly in the beginning and low practicing level, as I would say. We're again strengthening our human capital through this partnership. I think that is the highest leverage point and the most progress that we're making also around those data systems. And as we get better with the data systems, we are going to expand those to ensure that our school counselors have a dashboard. Right now, the dashboard that we're using is primarily for school leaders and district leaders. But we have plans to expand that to our counseling core so that they have that data at their fingertips as well as they're working with students, scholars day to day.
And I do just want to jump in and just highlight this data table. This is something that comes from that post-secondary rubric assessment that I explained earlier. So you can see there's 2 scores because we did it at the beginning as that informative assessment to see where districts are at. And then we recently just did it in February to measure our progress and to realign our coaching plan and our goals to ensure that we're meeting the most crucial needs of districts. And so you can see all the way over on the right that while Proviso, as Dr. Williams shared, is in beginning or early practicing stages, they've seen tremendous growth and improvement in their post-secondary leadership mindsets and also their programs that have direct impact on students. And so this is something that we use on a regular basis to align and check that our work and our discussions that we're having through those individual coaching sessions are really attached to the most impactful and crucial parts of post-secondary readiness and success. So I'm going to kick it over to the Waukegan team, and then we'll come back together for questions both for Proviso and Waukegan at the end.
Next slide, please. Hi, good morning again, everyone. Just wanted to briefly share with you a little bit about our district. First and foremost, a little bit about me. I've pretty much been in high schools my entire career. Started out as a teacher, was an assistant principal, high school principal for 8 years. I've been in Waukegan now for 4.5 years. And my partner today, Miss Yvonne Fulton, has been in the district much longer than I am. So she's been a great asset to me in providing some of that historical knowledge about where the high school has been as we kind of go through this work together. So a little bit about our district. We have 22 schools. We're a unit district. Roughly similar to Proviso, we have one high school, but it's broken up into 3 different campuses. So we have a 9th and 10th grade campus, which is its own building, 11th and 12th grade campus, which is another building, and then our Alternative Options Education Center, which is our AOEC building as well. And across those 3 buildings, a third of our student body attends our high school. So we have roughly 4,500 kids in our high school, which is about a third of our district. And on any given year, I think Waukegan is one of the largest high schools in the state of Illinois. Our enrollment has been declining slightly, but we are one of the biggest high schools in the state. And then you can see, again, some of the other indicators that we have in our district in terms of the students that we're serving and the families that we're serving as well. But overall, very large district. And, so it's a great opportunity for us as we think about that continuum of services and some of the practices that we're trying to establish at the high school, because we're also working closely with our middle schools to kind of bridge some of these efforts as well. And that's more of Avanda's role, but that's kind of our strategy, is making sure we have that continuum of services 6 through 12. And Avanda also works with our elementary schools and does some college and career readiness work at that level too. So next slide, please. So one of the biggest things I think that really, and Dr. Williams touched on this as well, where one of our biggest challenges was kind of breaking down the silos between our schools, because they have different campuses. Establishing that true shared vision and what that meant for our district has been a challenge, just because naturally there's not a lot of time and space for the campuses to come together. So I think one of the things that has really been a valuable attribute to this partnership is that Andrea has really brought the two campuses together and is leading us through those monthly collaboratives and those that assessment and that data review and all these different pieces, so that we can have a shared understanding of the work. And we do have common language about what it means. What does college and career readiness mean in Waukegan? So I think that's been very helpful for us to have this external partner in OneGoal come in and kind of be that bridge for us and bring us all together. So that's been very helpful. Our district is going through some significant changes right now. We are in the process of expanding our current district strategic plan through 2028. So we have roughly a 5-year strategic plan that we're working on. Last year, we created a high school transformation plan, a 5-year high school transformation plan, and we are in year 1 of implementation of that plan right now. So that plan has kind of really been at the heart of a lot of this work that we're doing. There is a post-secondary pillar that's a part of that plan, and this is where our partnership with OneGoal comes directly into play in terms of trying to prioritize and incorporate some of these college and career readiness initiatives into those existing plans. And Andrea's been great. OneGoal's been great in terms of being flexible. We shared the plan with them, so they had some contextual understanding about what our high school transformation plan looks like, and they've been really able to kind of adapt and morph their support and their coaching and their guidance around that plan for us. So that's been really helpful for us to kind of keep that alignment in place is important. We didn't want to kind of have we wanted OneGoal to be part of that process and not necessarily like a side, something that we're doing off to the side, that they would be a part of one of these key partners that we would have as a part of this plan. Probably the biggest thing, and I kind of touched on this early, that we're really working on is building adult capacity and knowledge of our stakeholders. We have a really large district, as you saw from before. Majority of our parents have bilingual students. So really helping them understand what college and career readiness means, what are some of the opportunities that exist in our district is important. And not only our parents and our students, but our staff as well. Like most districts, I'm sure there's been some turnover in some positions. So we're, again, trying to create that common language and that shared understanding about what this work is going to mean in Waukegan. And Avanda and her team have been really great at, doing that with both campuses, across both campuses. She kind of serves as the bridge and the collaborator across the campuses. So she's been instrumental in that piece. But what we realized was that this adult capacity piece was going to be really important if we wanted to move any of these other, if we wanted to pull on any of these other levers, that we had to have that adult capacity piece first. So I think in the conversations that we've been having monthly and in these meetings that we've been having monthly, those have been super helpful and very effective in terms of us just, again, talking amongst one another, making sure we have alignment between what our goals are in the post-secondary pillar, making sure that when we do these needs assessments and whatever, that we all are calibrated in terms of what we're looking for and what we want to see happen. So that's been instrumental. And all that leads to the last point, right? Just developing this growth mindset about what the myriad of opportunities and pathways that are available for our students. We've expanded a lot of our dual credit offerings. We've brought in several key partners. We're right with the College of Lake County here in Northern Illinois. So we've been trying to expand that partnership to kind of help us as well. So these are all the reasons why we chose to connect with OneGoal. And it's been a great partnership so far, and it's been very beneficial for us to continue to kind of move this work forward. Next slide. I think Yvonne's taking over this portion.
Thank you, Dr. Knott.
You're welcome.
So again, good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk about what we've done and where we're going. We've done so much in a year with OneGoal. We started off, as the first point says, we did a root cause analysis. We had to dig deep and have real conversations. We started off talking about what is the problem, and then from the problem going, what is the symptoms of the problem, and then what is a possible root cause? Because some people, when we discuss root causes, is that actually the root cause, or it really is it that the root cause? Some things we think are root causes are really not. And so we had to dig deep and talk about the actual root cause. And then that's when we came up with a post-secondary pillar. As Dr. Williams stated before, Andrea and their data team did wonderful creating a spreadsheet of all the tasks that we were going to be doing under the post-secondary pillar plan. So under the post-secondary pillar plan, we chose 5 of the focus areas. And under the shared post-secondary pillar plan focus area, we chose 10 tasks that we wanted to complete. Under the data systems and structures, we chose 5 tasks that we wanted to complete. And then under adult capacity, we chose about 13, and so on. And so every week, I track, or the group tracks, of where we're at and where we're going. And so we also have this tracker for myself. It's called Respondability. Our district is initiative is to work with Respondability tracker. So that holds us all accountable to show where we're at. And are we completing this task? Are we really focused on where we're going and where we're completing, building foundations and systems? So the second one, the post-secondary plan focuses on college and career. Can you go back to the, that's okay. That's okay. So we have focused on aligned with the OneGoal's post-secondary plan. We also are looking at a 5-year plan, but we also, in the 5-year plan, when we take a look at it, we continually to refine our plan. Some things we're not going to get done in year 1 that we thought we were going to get done in year 1. So we held it off to year 2 or year 3. We want to be intentional and really get foundations and systems and have them sustainable. Because if either of us, me or Dr. Note, leaves the position or gets promoted to somewhere else, we want somebody else coming in to understand and to keep this plan going. So we really are being intentional about the plan that we've started with OneGoal. Also focus on leadership and professional development. I think Dr. Williams stated that our counselors, we wanted to get back to the basics of ASCA. Andrea being on a team and having the counseling background, even though I have a counseling background also, but hearing another voice, the counselors are more accepting of that sometimes. We're leaders and we're doing this work daily. However, getting somebody else's perspective helps us a lot. So we're really focusing on that ASCA national model that we should be focused on, so we get back into the basics. And we also introduced school links. We went from Naviance to now doing school links, which is a very good post-secondary platform that I believe is it's more student focused than we had with Naviance. Naviance was more, I would say, adult focused. So we really are happy that we can implement some of the things together along with OneGoal with school links. If you can go to the other. So when we did our first assessment, you can see we were basically all in the beginning stages overall. But now, because we've been so intentional, we're starting off practicing, going from beginning to practicing. Now, of course, there's different perspectives when you think about, I'll give you an example, like institutional partnerships. I believe as a whole, myself, but this is a team effort, right? That institutional partnerships is one of my strong points, but we're still beginning and practicing in that area. That doesn't mean that we're not doing it, but we need to do it as a collaborative effort amongst, because we're a unit district, amongst the elementary, middle, and high school. So this has been great looking at it now. When we started off, there were some people that were in our group that are no longer in the group. So the data could be a little skewed, but I believe that we're doing the work and looking at it and meeting with Andrea and OneGoal pretty consistently. And we're seeing such a great change in what we're doing as a whole at Waukegan. So I think just a couple quotes we look at. This speaks to what we can do and where we have shared goals and set our minds to something. The steps that we are making feel good and in the right direction. I just feel like we're going in the right direction. We're setting the foundations. We're building sustainability across and access for all students across our district. As we look and we talk about equity and access a lot, but are we really doing that? And are we trying to go there? So we have partnered with also OneGoal. OneGoal has introduced us to Ed Systems that we will be working with, trying to build better pathways for our students in our district. And everything comes down to it, the successes we have. And what we are doing is literally we're trying to build a better way for our students and collaborate more between our groups at the district level, the school level, the community. We just want all our partners in our Waukegan area to be involved heavily and have a growth mindset, and we all have one common goal.
Okay, so big thank you to our district partners who have been sharing the work that they've been doing. We'd love to open this up now for any questions that anybody might have about the program, or questions specifically for Waukegan and Proviso about how they've implemented this work. And yeah, so we want to open it up.
And you can drop your questions in the chat or unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Samina Hadi Tabassum, and I was hoping to pose a question. Is that possible here? Okay, great. So I'm just curious as to who's at the table when the decisions are being made. What does your cross-functional team look like in terms of the administration at the school? And I'm wondering if there's also student representatives in this process as well.
So those are great questions, and I definitely want to give Dr. Nault and Dr. Williams and Ms. Fulton a chance to speak specifically to how they made this work for their districts. But in terms of our district partners as a whole, I would say it varies very much from district to district as to what sort of presence they have on this team at the district level, at the school leadership level, and at the counseling level. We have recommendations that we make to each district as to how they should think about composing this team and how to make sure that there's equity of voice and experience and work within the district, but each district handles that differently. So I don't know, Dr. Williams or Dr. Nault, if either one of you have a sense of how you put your team together.
Yeah, so I'll just say at the beginning of our partnership was last year, we kept it focused on building the capacity at the district level because we had the silos with 3 schools acting very separately instead of as a system. We felt very strongly that we needed to start at the district level to level set our expectations for schools. We also have, so at the district level, we have several coordinators that sit on the same team with Julie and I, including the coordinator of assessment of CTE and counseling and career readiness. Those are the primary district leaders who are working with us now. I can say because of the capacity that we're building across schools and within ourselves as a school system, that it's very easily we'll be able to better integrate school leaders, counselors, and teachers into the district-wide planning going forward because we have a good solid foundation. We didn't feel like we could be learning at the same pace as school leaders because it was new and because we had to make sure that we had a system of schools instead of the 3 separate schools at the beginning.
For Waukegan, it was a little different. We during our first year with them, we had too many people at the table during our first year. It was a mix of district level, school-based counselors, instructional coaches. Gosh, I'm trying to remember who was all there, but it was too big. So we decided it would be best to kind of pare it down and just really focus on the people at the district level who's leading the work, which is Avanda and her team. She has 2 managers that assist her. And then myself overseeing Avanda and kind of dealing with some of the work at the high school as well. We're the only 2 at the district level that really touch a lot of it. Then at the school base, we do have the assistant principals that oversee the post-secondary work for each campus. We have the counselors from each campus, select counselors from each campus. We have post-secondary coach. We have, of course, Andrea from OneGoal that comes in. But our team now is, I think, roughly 8 to 10 people that we have. And then the expectation is that they're going to transfer that information to their respective groups and their teams for now. But I think because we're still at those beginning and practicing stages, that, as we get more comfortable and feel like more confident with the direction we're moving, I think then bringing in perhaps that student voice. Each campus has a student advisory council that meets with the principal. So the principal could potentially bring in some of those students to get that student voice in, or he could meet with them and share some of the work that we're doing as well. Avanda is always talking and meeting with students about our different partners. So they're aware of School Links, they're aware of Naviance, not Naviance, sorry, School Links, OneGoal, Green Light Match, College of Lake County, Schuler Scholars, Trio. We have a wide range of partners that students are familiar with. But we don't have students at the table yet, but we do have mechanisms, and we've talked about getting their voice into this process moving forward. Nirvana, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, so Dr. Nault is right about the student piece, but just I have my one-on-one with Dr. Nault every week. So last week after I had my one-on-one, we actually did meet with the student advisory. So they will not probably be joining us at our meetings, but we're making sure we selected 2 students that are going to be heavily involved in our decision-making about what they need as students. So we have, since just last week, too. So we'll meet with them weekly and they will give us feedback on what we're doing so we can bring back to what we're planning with OneGoal and the other partners we have.
I love that introduction to student voice. And, one thing I'd want to mention is that Waukegan and Proviso are two of the larger school districts that we work with. But around the state of Illinois and the state of Kentucky, we have a lot of very small districts that we work with as well. And I wonder, Julie, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but do you think maybe you could speak a little bit to the composition of teams in very small single school districts as well?
Sure. Like both Proviso and Waukegan have shared, the structure and the thought process for who's on the post-secondary leadership team is very contextualized to local needs and local structures. And so I work with some smaller single high school districts in central and southern Illinois. And most of the time it's led by the high school principal, and or if they have a college and career readiness coordinator or counselor, that person is also the lead there. But in smaller spaces, many people wear multiple hats. So it's typically a smaller team that is high school based. So it's the high school principal, a school counselor. In some places, the social worker is also involved. And then perhaps a teacher leader or an instructional coach. And really it's really dependent on what structure and what capacity they have. There is some school districts where the superintendent or the assistant superintendent does support, but it is just really what fits the needs. We do have one district that's they already had a student advisory team for post-secondary programs in their school. And so we would just share information. We didn't meet together. The school staff would just bring student feedback to us, and then we would make recommendations to that advisor.
Thank you. Thank you for that great question, Samina.
This approach is very comprehensive and includes working with both adults and with students. I'm just curious from your perspective, and this can be for OneGoal or for folks from the district, what would you say needs to be in place for schools to successfully implement these strategies and see positive outcomes?
It's a really great question. I wonder if either one of our schools feel like they have something to add to that. Dr. Williams, I thought you came up.
Yes, I think we wouldn't know where we are or how much progress we had made without having the data system set up. So I think that is one of the key areas that you need, that any district, any organization would benefit from, is having a data system so that you can keep up with your progress. I think that is probably the number one thing. I would also say setting up the collaborative time and having that be consistent. So even if you feel pressure to not have a meeting or not have a collaborative meeting, for instance, with our counseling team, it's important just to keep that on the calendar, keep it focused on learning, follow up, make sure you have the coaching in place, and make sure that your school leaders are also very highly aware of the direction that you're going in the partnership. As I mentioned, we're not quite ready to have the leaders on the team. They're working in the schools, but on the district side, to be kind of the umbrella to help us lead the work further. So those two things, the data systems for sure, and then having the consistency with the collaborative meetings and professional development.
I think what Dr. Williams said was a very important and key, the consistency of the collaboratives. I think I write that every week when I'm looking in my accountability, responsibility track, I place that. We need consistency. We need everybody to be attentive, focused, present at every meeting, so we can all have the same common goal. When you're missing, we tell students when they're missing school or class, they can get off track and get behind. It's the same concept when we're having these meetings. Once you miss one meeting, you're behind and we have to catch you up, and we almost have to start all over and state the same thing over again when we're trying to move forward. So that's the key.
And I would also just add that the other component of it too is to look at your post-secondary readiness initiatives as a journey. So we come to walk alongside you in your journey, but your journey isn't going to come to a terminal point when we kind of release you to continue and sustain your programs after our partnership. So it's a it's like a continuous improvement cycle. We continue to look at what we've been doing, and if it's not working anymore, see what we need to tweak or adjust, or who else we need to involve to continue to make that impact. And really just being open to trying new things and learning. The post-secondary landscape is always changing, and how we view and operate as high school districts or high school schools in a consolidated or a unit district is changing, and that's true across the country. So all of what Yvonne and Dr. Williams said is true, but also just embracing this continuous improvement and the kind of like the entrepreneurial spirit that post-secondary readiness is really a journey.
I'll just add to that, Yvonne talked about a lot of the things that we are doing with our post-secondary pillar and our high school transformation plan. And ultimately, our goal is to change practice, right? So, I've always said this to the team, that it's the little consistent steps along the way that will ultimately change practice and change the culture of what we're trying to do. We may not see the results right away. We're in year 2 of this. We're still at those practicing levels, which is okay, but we're growing and we're assessing our progress, and we're reflecting as we go. So I think to get to that point of changing practice, you have to have these systems and structures in place. And part of those systems is the regularly scheduled meetings, looking at that data, bringing in student voice, like Yvonne mentioned, and just continuing those conversations around the work will ultimately lead to those bigger changes that we're all hoping to find. So I would just add that that's a huge part of this as well. It's just staying the course, persevering, even though at times it may seem like you're not making much momentum, you really are.
This is Samina again. I'm currently a dean at Elmhurst University, and I would like to know how universities can join OneGoal and its partnerships with very large school districts.
I think that probably is an unexplored area of our programming. We do work, we do support our districts in creating partnerships with their local colleges and other colleges. But in terms of sort of us being the gateway to that aspect of programming, it's something that we have not developed, but I'd be very happy to speak to you about that further. If it's okay, I'll drop my email address in the chat, and you can reach out and we can see where we might take that. I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting that question. I think it's a great one. So I'd be happy to continue that conversation, Samira. Thank you.
I want to thank the OneGoal team and the district representatives from Proviso and Waukegan. This was really great learning more about the work, and I really appreciated the emphasis on creating a shared vision and the use of data for continuous improvement, the fact that you're thinking about sustainability, and the fact that you're ensuring that student voice is incorporated to the work. So all great ways to make sure that we are doing this work in the service of our young people.